Hi, it's Kristen here with another process video, and today I'm going to be working on another Color Rush Studio challenge for the International Scrapbooking Day. And initially I was going to do this as my mixed media challenge. So I started off by cutting out, this was a cut file that I had purchased from Silhouette Studio, and I was going to initially do some like watercolor behind. Now I had messed this up. I had traced it and then I had put the paint down before I remembered to erase the pencil marks. So of course that was kind of like set in there. So I decided instead what I was going to do was just going to do blocks of color and then back it like each piece separately, which kind of ended up taking a little bit more time. And these paints that I'm using are either a mix of Vicky Bouton's paints, Lindy Stamp Gang, and then I think a couple of them are shimmers too. So I was just trying to kind of do colors that would kind of match those butterflies that you see off to the left hand side. The butterflies I cut out from a page that was included in the kit that it was like nothing but just a full page of butterflies, which were really pretty. This was the Whispers of Spring kit, so this would have been March's kit. So I'm just showing you how I'm blocking off. And some of these colors, like with the Lindy Stamp Gang, I had purchased these so long ago that I'm not even sure if they still sell the color. So that's why I didn't include the colors, but the name of the colors. And I don't recall the name of the color. I think I used one or two that were Shimmer's Paints colors. So I'm just trying to do some blues and some purples. Now, here I've cut away and have totally pivoted. So I got the file all backed up with the picture, with the paint colors, thought it looked really pretty. But then I put the butterflies with it, and because the butterflies were really hyper realistic looking, I just felt like it didn't look right together. Because the cut file was a little bit more, I don't know, it wasn't a realistic looking cut file, like the colors and all that. So I just felt like with the butterflies, if the butterflies were a little bit more, not as hyper realistic looking, I just felt like it didn't work right together. So I decided to change what I was doing. So instead of using making this my mixed media layout, I decided to use the black and white photograph of my daughter. So this was when she was a newborn. And that was one of the challenges, was to use a black and white photograph. So, so now I've pulled out some florals and I'm going to use these butterflies for the layout. The striped paper, I just ripped in half. And then the little half circle piece was actually part of the back of that purple paper. So it was a whole entire ring, and it had like two clusters of flowers on either side. And I think this kit came with two of each of the papers, and I had already made a layout where I'd used that circle. So I didn't want to do like a full circle wreath layout, because I felt like since I'd already done it, I didn't want to do it again. So that's why I ended up cutting out half of it. Plus I like that purple stripe paper. So I was able to salvage some of that ring of that circle paper, and I fussy cut out. And then I'm going to pull florals in that were included in the kit. So this is all the ephemera pieces to kind of hide the fact that it was, fussy cut out. So see, there's the back. That's the other part of the circle. And I already made a layout using that whole ring where I'd fussy cut it out. Because like I said, it came with two papers. I was trying to decide if I wanted to back the photograph, but all the papers that were included in the kit, I felt like they weren't soft enough, I guess, for kind of what I was going for with this layout. And so I decided I wasn't gonna back it at all. I ended up just printing it out on my printer at home, and choosing to print it with just a little white border around it, which I thought ended up being fine. And so I'm just going to start playing around with the florals here. A lot of time when I fussy cut stuff, I will try to like add in additional floral pieces and things like that just to kind of disguise the fact that it is fussy cut. Since a lot of time you can't, you'll have kind of rough borders where it doesn't really necessarily show like the natural curvature of a flower. And so I'll disguise that with adding additional florals or ephemera kind of around it. And a lot of these florals, the ones that I add on, I will pop up on foam. So that's what I'm doing here. And I decided to get this all glued down before I adhered her photograph, just because I wanted to make sure I kind of had everything positioned with where I wanted her photograph. So with this flower, if you notice, I just only glued like half of it. So in that way I would be able to still tuck her picture up underneath that floral without, without having any issues. So then I'm going to get her picture put on there. And a lot of time I don't usually do this. I will have the picture down and then kind of work around it. But I decided I wanted to kind of soften up that ripped edge there a little bit, because I kind of felt like this was, turning into a really kind of feminine, soft layout. And I just felt like adding some ribbon there would help soften that. So this is Frazzle that was included in the kit. And I'm just going to kind of ruffle it up. So as I'm tucking it, I'm not trying to make it look perfect. And then I'm going back in here and kind of gluing down the ruffles a little bit, just to ensure that they weren't going to lift up or get messed up. And then I'm going to do a cluster on the upper right-hand corner of the picture, just because I kind of felt like, you needed a little something over there, just because that was going to be a really blank spot. But I also didn't want to put too much over there. So this bow was one of a die cut piece that was included in the kit. So I decided to put that there. And I did pop that up on foam as well. And then these are thickers that were in my stash. And I'm going to spell out Beautiful Dreamer. And I'm kind of just roughly putting it on here. I won't stick them down really well on the page, just in that way I can kind of mess around with them. But these are actually pretty sticky, so once I get them positioned where I want them, I didn't feel like I needed to add additional glue to these, so I just pushed them down really hard. But so I got that down where I wanted. Now down at the bottom here, I kind of felt like I needed to break up that striped paper a little bit. So I did decide, which I didn't have my, my layout pushed up high enough. So I ended up just ripping up a little kind of peekaboo spot there, so I could tuck some more of the Frazzle there. And then because I had ripped it up a little bit too high, I end up disguising that, you'll see here in a minute, with a butterfly. And then I'm going to start putting the butterflies kind of all over the page. I didn't want to go with too many of them. I really wanted to try to not overwhelm the page, just kind of add them on, just to kind of add a little bit more dimension. And I typically will try to make sure my butterflies are all flying in different directions. It bothers me if they're kind of all going the same way. So I start off adding some glitter, because I just felt like that would go really well with this page. And this is the glitter that was included in the Funny Bunny kit. But I just felt like they were too big, because I felt like this was kind of turning into a pretty dainty, soft layout, that I just felt like the glitter pieces were too large. So I ended up pulling out some glitter from my stash, which were a lot smaller pieces, and they were kind of iridescent. So I kind of scattered those all over the page. Here are some close-ups of it. and I appreciate you coming by and joining me to watch another process video.